2020 was probably the closest I ever got to suicide. Like, really. Because, one, like, I thought I was going to lose my business. Like, COVID was the worst thing for grappling on the planet.
Yeah, oh my God.
And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I got to shut my business down. Then I herniated 3 discs in my neck.
Holy God.
And so, like, it was like shooting down my arm. I didn't sleep for like 3 days. Yeah. And I was like, what am I going to do? I can't pay my bills and I can't sleep. And it was horrible. I don't miss 2020 at all. Like,
man, I think I even erased on it, you know, because it was so, when it started, it was not, oh, okay, you think it's going to be for a little couple months or whatever, but then you're like, oh man, no, this thing is serious.
This could be a while.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate you taking the time to do this. A big thing for me is, like, I've known you for over 10 years. I mean, I got my blue belt at your last school.
Yeah.
It was brutal. I remember we had just come off the Worlds. You know, we thought we were in like the best physical shape of our life, and we were like joking. And then I think I remember, like, you got a little annoyed with us, and you're like, all right, you're not finishing. When he finishes his bear crawls, that's when you're done. Because we got him done early.
Yeah.
Like Andrew and I, we knocked him out. We're like laughing. We're like,
yeah.
what's next? And then you're like, no, when he's done, you're done. And we're like, what do you want? He's like, 5. And we're like, oh, we're good. The blue belt test, to me, has been something special. Like, I really appreciate that, like, step in the journey. Where did that come from?
Well, I think came from the idea that in the beginning, I want to do it. When I was doing all the seminars in Europe, I want to make sure that I took the physicality out of the positions. So I used to do a kind of a belt test and then put the guys to, hey, escape from the mount, show me this, show me that, so the guy was not just powering his way through. And that's basically where I built up to it. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. And it turned out to be the physical part and then the rolling after. Huh?
Yeah.
And then you change the concept because it turns more and more into a bond. There was not more about the physicality, but really in the people that you have there to uplift you when you feel, man, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and bringing everyone to their best, to their limit. Doesn't matter what the limit it is. And that's why later I started partnering up guys who are more equivalent to physicality and things like that, because otherwise the other guy cannot keep up. So I get older guys doing more with older guys, and younger guys doing more, and with that.
That's kind of how I've evolved my, you know, like I do 1 a year, and I tell all my guys, I'm like, you know, as long as you put the time in and you qualify or you've competed correctly, like I don't want to water my belts down, but I also, a lot of my students have jobs, and a lot of my students.
And I understand.
So I've had to, like, really shift my academy. You know, I went from a competitor for a decade, didn't really focus so much on coaching, but just kill, compete, and tried to make all my students that. And then at the end of it, it was like I wasn't having a business anymore, because so many of my students had families, so many of my students had jobs, and they couldn't dedicate 5 days a week to the mats.
And people won't, it's unfortunate, like that it takes time for us to learn that people will be driven or pushed into the direction they want to be pushed. And if you try to push them, they will never will come to you and say, hey man, I just can't handle this. I just can't. They will find different excuse. They will find, oh, my wife, this, whatever, and they will quit because now, and then later you start differentiate that guys, what do you want? Oh, I want to compete. I want to do that. Okay, so let me tell you what's going to take it for that.
Yeah.
Now, and before, I think the same way I was the same way like
and
you
so
in the
many
beginning.
People say they want to compete, but then when you explain to them they can't put 2 days a week in and be at the highest level. So that was where my academy was struggling, was like people were saying this, but they were showing up this way. And I was like, okay, we either have to shift or it's not.
And for us instructor, you get frustrated but then you like, okay, do I really want to go after this guy and tell him what the heck he's doing and that? Or I just like, hey man, it is the consequence of you choosing, Because otherwise you go after, then he feel corner, and then he's embarrassed. I don't know how many people there that came and said, "Oh, I was afraid to talk with you about it."
I know, I've had that.
I'm
how
like,
am I afraid
are you
to-
crazy? I'm like, I never treat anybody different in any way. I would never. But don't tell me that you're gonna commit to this, that. I'm not forcing you.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to
You
do
set
it.
the parameters.
Nah, you said that you want to do it.
On the blue belt test, the bonding experience is cool.
Yeah, I thought that in begin was started with that concept of trying to, because I have a short period of time and I need to go and travel. I was doing a lot of seminars in Europe and things like that. And I didn't know the guys, and I'm like, okay, I want to really assess if they know the technique. I'm not gonna have a time enough to really create, see them rolling, spend a week or something like that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make them really physically tired and say, hey, let's get to mount.
So it's something that you kind of came up with along the way.
Yeah.
You just started.
And then I was like, oh, okay, now I think this will fit in. And then we started. I had a really tough group of guys. My first guys were everybody really, really tough.
It's funny because every person, their test was the hardest, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, the person before you, their test.
Yeah.
That's how it's always been for us. It's like the students that I've went through, it's like, yeah, but you didn't do it at Rodrigo's. Yeah, but you didn't do it here. Yeah, but I went through this.
Yeah.
So it's cool, but the thing that I've noticed is like when you do the test, you almost have a little bit of a retention rate in your students, and you have a little bit more of like the students that did it together, almost like I've noticed, talk to each other more outside. It's like they do have
you
this
create a bond.
together,
Yes.
like you
Yes.
suffered and you died
Yeah,
together, and
yeah.
so like especially my guys in Terre Haute, like all of those, there's like my first generation of Terre Haute blue belts. There's like 8 of them, and I think like 80% are still there. You know, and it's going to be cool because it's going to be the first time in my 14 years of doing this that like 6 of them will probably go to purple belt at the same time, just because they've consistently stayed. You know, normally it's like 1 purple belt maybe a year.
Yeah, it is true. It's
and
true.
to have all of those guys still show up every Tuesday, every Friday, and put all that work in is cool to see.
It is very cool.
How long have you had your black belt? And when did you start training jiu-jitsu altogether?
Boy, I started training jiu-jitsu, I think was 84.
Really? Should I tell you I was born in 84?
Yeah. So I started, I remember I came from judo. I was very successful in judo.
So when did you start in judo?
I started 5.
At 5 years old?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it's very traditional in Brazil. Now, judo used to be always it's an Olympic sport. Brazil always been very good in judo. So a lot of people would go, and we've been very lucky in Brazil because Brazil took a lot of immigrants, especially before and after Second War. So we had really directly from Japan. Yeah. And Brazil never had this system of, oh, you can't do this, you're gonna get sued, so the guys will treat like if you're in Japan. Now, if I tell the guys, like, if I would do to any of my kids what my instructor of judo used to do to me as a kid, run with kids on the back upstairs and hit with the shinai on the neck every time my posture was bad, and you get a lawsuit every day here, no?
Yeah, I remember one time when I trained in Tokyo, I got squirt with a water bottle. Like the professor went around and squirted you if you weren't doing the technique right or something.
Yeah, they are absurdly, maybe even for us, over the edge, you know. But I heard like my instructor used to tell me, like, you know, it's called a con. Like, if you get there, if you screw up or something, you got to smack on the face.
Yeah.
And you want to leave because have a line of people wanted to be handpicked for the privilege of being living inside to train. It's like, I don't think I want to get a bit smack on the face. It was like, but it was the Japanese coach. I have friends of mine who well, not really friend, I knew it very well, that Aurelio Miguel, who being a world champion, Olympic champion in judo, was considered at his time the strongest grip in the world from Brazil. And he told me like one time, he's like, man, I went to train in Japan to get ready for the Worlds, and after a week, man, I couldn't handle it. It was 4 practice a day, They're knocking on my door at 4 in the morning. I'm like, get the hell out of here. I'm going to go to Europe to train with the Russians and Germans. I'm like, I'm done with this crazy Japanese.
Really?
I was like, yeah. He was like, he told me, this is a guy on that level. Yeah.
Because I feel like now a lot of Japan is bringing in Americans to teach them technique, which is weird. You know, like it's weird the cycle and how it's moved. And the sport has been neat. Like, you know, judo was heavy in the beginning, and now I feel like wrestling is getting very, very heavy in America.
Yeah.
And it's neat to see the evolution of how that works together.
I love it all. I think that it's when you love it, you have appreciation for every little. Yeah, it's like it was the same thing when I came from judo. In judo, for so many years, you see more judo now lives like more like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
guys are pulling guard and doing this. Like, what the heck is going on? But when I was doing judo, you couldn't do that. You still cannot do foot locks. You cannot do it. But it was like barely had any ground because the guy, as soon as
you touched
he broke himself on, and if there was no aggression from both sides, they put you straight back up.
Yeah.
You know. But now you look completely the evolution, and it's a lot because of the old guard, the guys who control the system are very much now. They have the control, like you see what Stevens even mentioned. When he was competing in jiu-jitsu, they came and approached him and says, "Hey, if you compete in anything but judo, you will lose all your sponsorships."
Oh, really?
What is an absurd? I wouldn't want, if I'm a judo, go to a jiu-jitsu tournament, represent judo, and go there and kick butt and win, and then we can advertise that this guy goes to a jiu-jitsu tournament. Why are you gonna now they return with the double legs, but after a Mongolian won the worlds without never doing judo, they abolished double legs. You couldn't touch the legs, and now is returning with the limitation of how long you can hold and things like that. But those guys are at the highest level. They are capable of learning anything. Now, why are you gonna? Oh, you can't do this in the sport. Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. It's gonna make you look bad. Yeah. It's like those are top athletes. Olympic athlete in judo. He's
capable. Do you think
capable.
the Olympics makes things better or worse?
Like,
What do you think? Do you think jiu-jitsu should eventually go into the Olympics, or do you think it would maybe?
Well, I think the problem with jiu-jitsu would be how to keep up with the rules to make for me excited to watch, because
no one wants to watch a guard puller sit.
Or you gotta have an absurd amount of people that is guaranteed they will be watching because they follow a sport, or you got to make the sport so exciting that people who don't understand or don't practice the sport is like, oh, I want to watch this thing.
Yeah. But think it would be gi or no gi?
I think it would be no gi.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think there is a space for gi. I think judo has the traditional that.
There's still
then you
a
have
space
karate.
In my heart for the gi, but definitely no gi is crazy how fast it's growing.
I think they can be very aggressive with the rules, punish quicker, And I think that would be, I would have loved to see it.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see it.
Yeah, I agree with that. So when did you start competing? Like right at white belt?
Well, I came already competing in judo because you don't even think about it. It was competitions in judo and things like that. So then I transitioned to jiu-jitsu. I already started competing now. I think I compete the most was blue and purple. That's where I compete the most. Because when I got my brown, I started working now, and I need to at the time, my dad divorced, so I had no money, so I went stock market, and I was kind of supporting myself to working and everything, so my hours
were you already in St. Louis at that time?
No, I was not. I came to St. Louis in 96, the first time to visit, and in 97 is when I opened the school.
Okay. What made you come to St. Louis?
Because I had my stepdad and my mom at the time were open a restaurant.
Okay.
He used to be a chef, so he wanted to open restaurants. So one of them would be here in St. Louis now. And then I came to visit, I hang out, and I met another Brazilian here. His dad was a vice president of Monsanto. and he like, oh man, why you don't stay? He was teaching taekwondo, hapkido at the time. He's like, oh, I can teach the stand up, and you teach jiu-jitsu. You know? And then I was like, I was so burned out from stock market for 7 years. Yeah, it's very intense, very cutthroat.
So you worked in the stock market, or you were just
I work in stock
traded
market.
and
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
worked in stock market for 7 years, doing building operations to sell to banks. Used to work with JP Morgan, all these big banks, and moving funds and things
I'm
like
horrible
that.
at that.
Yeah, I'm not. It's a very.
I feel like I always invest in the thing that immediately crashes the next day.
It's very difficult. It's what people sometimes ask me as like, you gotta, if you're gonna invest in anything, you gotta less instability and long term. It's forget about the money, and in 20 years you will see where it's. Because quick return, you need to be close to an insider, and is very risky. And the person who is directly in the market always have an edge, because what's going to happen if something happened bad, he's going to put his first. And when you go try to sell or you're going to be always the bottom of the list, because you're not the priority. Yeah. The priority is the big funds. The priority is the guys who dictate the market. And the small guy always will take on the head on that.
Yeah. Okay, I did not know that. That's pretty cool. So you came to St. Louis, but before then, like, what is some of your experiences in competition? Like, do you have any unique stories that you feel like along the way you ran into? I would like to do, like, try once a month, once every other month, where we kind of meet together and talk some about your history.
Yeah, bud. Yeah,
but also, like, maybe dive into some concepts or some of the technique that you've had success with.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of like mix it up. But what do you feel like maybe is a good story or experience that you had along the way while coming up?
The tournaments used to be so disorganized.
Now, I heard a story once, but I don't know if I could bring it out there. But you got into it, like, it used to just get heated.
Oh, we used to be like because at the time, I always related very well. I always been a guy who had a great friendship with a lot of the guys. So I used to go roll sometimes at Carson. Carson was a friend of my dad. But at the same time, I trained at Elios, and have the rivalry. But I grew up and was really good friends with all the guys that were original. None of them really are more. Have one or two, I think, that's still in Gracie Barra, but that was Renzo, that was the Machados, there was Jean-Jacques, there was the original. None of them are more. Soneca, all of those guys, they're my friends. They used to be, So I used to relate it to everybody and have a good relation, go roll, or and things like that. But at the same time, had a lot of tension into it. And when you're a referee, you referee something, people try to jump in and breaks a fight, how breaks lose. It used to be very, very disorganized.
Yeah, I can't remember who was telling me that, but they remember, like, it was just crazy. Like, one thing would trigger another, and you'd have everybody down.
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy because that was like, I remember the last time I referee really was at the Arnold Classic, when the Arnold Classic was the thing.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Like I remember, and I close to get in the fight with two guys. The first was the guy who's a coach for American Top Team, and I knew at him where I was going to do relation, but it's those kind of a stuff there. I called the stop, and the guy did a throw, and I was not clear. I said to stop, that he did the throw. I'm not going to count the points, but he presumed that I was going to count the points, and already came screaming at me. Like, fuck, what? I'm like, you're Brazilian, we be in Brazil. In Brazil, there's no this bullshit.
Yeah.
It's outside, and there's nothing. This thing about talk, hold me, whatever. I was like, let's go outside. There's Parropinha. There's a guy from Castle he is one of the head coaches of American Top Team now. But I was like, it's a heat because it's like, it's ridiculous. It's like you're going to be fighting because, unless I'm intentionally trying to screw someone, what I never would do.
You can't do anything after that.
Yeah. But it was like, it was very tense. I remember having arguments.
People always want the rules to favor themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with
and
that.
Yeah. And you know, and sometimes the guy will make a mistake or whatever. The key is there is intent to make it a mistake or not. It was a very tight situation where couldn't be interpreted this way or not. Now that's how I think we all have a sense when things are really okay. That was malicious.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, and then I always tell people that, like, especially when they're asking me questions about, like, because reffing's so tough. Because, I mean, like, they're like, okay, what's the rules? And it's like, it really can be different for every ref. So, like, the best thing to do is, like, just go out there.
And this is the fall. I think the fall is the system, now, because the system doesn't allow guys, like if you look at other sports, guys who don't practice their sport are capable of being referees. Why? Because there's a book. There's no, oh, my interpretation is that. No, there's not your interpretation. You're going to follow exactly what the book says, and those are the rules. You're not, oh, I thought that in my interpretation, he bounced out of the mats. No. The book says that when he cross here, it's done.
That's true.
Now, and then you see in baseball, whatever, guys who, I don't play baseball, but I'm trained to be a referee, and I pass on the test of the book, who says here. And that's what we see a lot in BJJF. There's a lot of
that's true.
Openings to double interpretation. Oh, my thought, he didn't really grab it. Oh, 1 second here. What says the book?
He did go, he almost had the submission or didn't have the submission.
So what is the interpretation? The book says there, when you are defending the submission, means the submission is putting you in danger.
Yeah.
So that should now be considered an advantage or whatever it is. Yeah. Whatever it is, the rule, but it should be clarified on the book. Now. They put in a video, then they explain, but could it be this, could it be that? It's very complex.
Yeah.
It should be simple, even what we talk for other people to be interested in watching.
Yeah.
It's like, what just happened?
Yeah, maybe.
What just happened? The guy went out, did this. Why does it now? Oh, he, like, like when they trying to do rules, I don't think the system of rules is review and adjust fast enough. Nah? Oh, the guy, if the guy try a takedown and you throw the arm over the head of the guy because it looks like you're having a guillotine, you're going to get punished. The guy is going to lose 2 points every time. It's like, no, you never had a guillotine from the beginning.
Yeah.
Nah?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, I see that, I think was Cyborg did a match against one of the guys, who was a really tough guy from Gracies in the final. Every time Cyborg would shoot, he would loop the arm like this, and Cyborg lose two. I was like, what the hell? It's like, there's not even a threat of a guillotine.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, if you wrap the arm around the neck and the guy's pushing you out, he immediately lose 2 points. It's like, he's trying to be aggressive, pushing the fight.
But he's being punished.
He's being punished on it. Like, it's very complex on it.
No, I agree. What was it like training with Rickson? Like, how old was Rickson when you started training under him? Was he your first jiu-jitsu professor?
Yes. The Master Helio used to be show a couple things, and he used to had a little chair that he will put on the corner, and as Rickson teach the class, he used to couple of the students that he liked and things like that, he used to pull or call attention and things like that, And he was always great with me. As a kid, I really didn't understand because I thought he was picking on me.
Yeah.
Because he was always like, oh, you did this wrong. Oh, you did use too much strength here. Go back. And I was like, man, what the hell? It's like, now it's like situations that I was exhausted. And he's like, well, that was horrible. And I'm like, 1 second here. I'm a kid. I'm trying to survive against adults.
How old were you?
I was like 16
okay.
at the time, 15, but I never really did kids class now because didn't have the popularity to have even was couple like 3, 4 kids, some didn't train very hard, and so it was always mixed with adults, you know, and naturally they were able to overpower a lot of the
How
situation.
far were you from the academy? Like, did you
Oh,
walk
far.
there? Did you
It's like,
drive there?
that's the ironic part, because it is people here complain about everything. Yeah? Like in Rio, for you to cover a distance, it was an hour and a half between an hour to an hour and a half of traffic going. Coming back, no, because then the rush hour is gone, but the class was around 6 o'clock, and there's no way around. So are you going and you committed to go, or you're not going to jiu-jitsu? And it's not that far, but the traffic is just horrible. You know, and people complain now, like, oh man, I gotta drive half an hour. Oh, I gotta drive this to go to jiu-jitsu. It's like, you have no clue.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the amount of sacrifice that people put into it.
How did you find, like, what made you say, oh, I'm going to drive an hour and a half to train with this person?
The reality is, like, it started like that. I had a friend of mine, I was doing judo, and a friend of mine started doing jiu-jitsu. And he started doing jiu-jitsu with a guy that is never really got a great reputation with the family. The family used to consider him like that was Hilson Gracie, because he used to have in the mall his school, and he used to do like umbrellas with different colors and things. So the Gracies didn't used to like it a lot. No? Very marketing.
I feel like he talked about that in his book, maybe. But I can't remember, but I feel like he briefly mentioned that.
Yeah. So it was like not very well seen, and he was in this little mall and things like that. But he showed me like a rear naked choke, showed me a couple things, and I'm like, I was blown away, and I like, Dad, do you know anybody on the Grace family? I would love to go and try jiu-jitsu. And he thought, yeah, I grew up with Castle, because my dad used to play volleyball for the Brazilian team, and he used to play volleyball at the beach, and they used to hang out, the fighters and the volleyball guys used to hang out in Copacabana.
Huh.
So my dad was friend, and my dad grew up as, even with the difference of age, Master Elio used to have a house in the mountains close to our house. So when my dad was a kid, my Master Elio was like, oh, Maria, that's my grandmother, it's like, you want to make your son tough, you got to send him to me. But my grandmother was terrified, because she was a singer. She was an opera singer. So anything, fighting, oh my gosh, no. But then my dad had a good relation. Then I asked my dad, hey, can you take it? And then at the time, the Gracie school was going through a transition, and there was no recognition. There was not. Was under a rowing stadium in Rio, like as a favor, no? Because the Gracies always had great people who really care about it, or police officers, or people who used to love jiu-jitsu and used to help out and put in different locations. And so we went to the rowing stadium. Now, then we went to a football club for a little bit. Then we ended up in a place where we stayed for many, many, many years. That was in the high school. We used to they used to rent 2 levels on this entrance of a high school, the building from this family, you know. But that's how it started. It was a rowing stadium. It looks like those old boxing gyms. I walk in as like what the heck? The place was so dark, like, you know, under, like in a corner, all the way down, and these mats of canvas, you know, because the mats before you couldn't even clean or wash. It was material, and the best you could do is push a broom to get some of the hair off.
Wow.
Because that thing was nasty. Thank God that was like dark gray, dark green. It's like, because it looked like a snot, like, but there was no way around, man, you know, and that's what it was. And then I started from there, yeah. I never forgot, like, it was a very humbling situation. A guy who was a friend of mine, that was the first role that I had it going there. Yeah, and then I remember coming from judo. I never lost a tournament in judo. So I was very convinced that I'm going to do there. And I remember throwing the guy, and he started doing guard. And I'm like, what the hell this dude is doing?
Yeah.
And I think he submitted me twice or something like that. And I was so mad. I was so blown away because I was like trying to power him off of the situations. And he just really, yeah. And then that night, I remember I couldn't sleep. And then I said to my dad, I was like, I got to go back. I got to go back to that place. And then I started more and more falling in love and started getting more distance from judo. Because judo didn't have more what to grow into, and unless I would try to go to trials for Olympics and things like that, you know.
Yeah.
It was very serious, very, how many hours a day you got to lift, you got to do this, you got to do that. And as I didn't felt that it was something that I really wanted. That's how it started, and, you know, I think the time I stopped was injury, and I went 1 year for the military.
When you first came here, St. Louis was where you landed.
Yes.
And when you first opened your academy, is the academy that I did the blue belt test at the first one that you had?
No, the first one was down 141 and in Manchester, and was side by side with the recruiting office. That's how even I met Todd, because was the Army, Marines, and the Navy.
That's good.
That was the recruiting office there.
Yeah.
And then I got a good friendship, especially with the Marines and the Navy, especially the Marines. I really got a really good friendship. Everybody was very nice, but then I end up meeting more guys from there and create up through the years of friendship, and that's where it started. Yeah.
What was it like? You know, for me, I remember like starting in my living room and taping some yoga mats together and watching some CDs, and then, you know, finally getting my first little space, and then just getting to where I am now. What was that like when you finally got here in America, St. Louis?
Well, was scary because of the fact that Jiu-Jitsu was not established in the Midwest. Nah? So a lot of people thought it was Japanese Jiu-Jitsu.
And what year is this again?
That was 97.
Yeah, so like...
Or people will come to challenge you.
Yeah.
Nah, we had so many crazy stories on the old place. And, because of... people will come and could be a wrestler or whatever, and you know, and they just want to come to try to beat you up or to try to hurt you, whatever. And then as the time goes by, things start shifting more towards the students. First was towards me, then I got a fame of being crazy. So people tried to stay away from me, and then they went to the students. They were crazy too. So then, you know, and then we conquered our space and the respect and things like that. But I you know, I didn't know anything different. You know, all these things that what they say, oh, it goes soft and this and that. I never seen that. You know, I knew that had guys in the gym there, Professor Elio or Rickson, like, hey man, go easy on him or whatever. But I never was part of that. You know, I was always part of, hey, this guy's coming to visit here from judo, whatever. Like, hey, go.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, with me, Saulo, it was like pit bulls of the gym. It was like, hey, because we are always the first dogs to get released, and if things get really ugly, then Rickson would step in. Yeah. But it was that's so when I got here was the same. I tried to implement the same way because I was, you know, we always afraid of failing. So I think the first reaction is like, I got to build some monsters here. Yeah. So my students from that time used to say, man, you only knew it hundreds. Every number you say was hundreds. Don't 100, 100. 100. It's like
I think I was the same way, you know. Like I absolutely, I don't think I had to like fight as hard because I was in a smaller town, but I was like, you know, we got to create, because we did have some dudes come in that, you know, like I remember this one time when I first started training, and I started as a white belt. Like I opened my academy as a white belt because there was nothing in Effingham. Actually, the funny part is, I thought I was inventing something. You know, like I was living in Effingham, Illinois, and I like opened, I'm like, look. Like, this doesn't exist. This is new. And then, like, I got outside of Effingham. I was like, no, there's jiu-jitsu everywhere. Like, I'm not inventing anything. But this kid walks in with jeans, and he's like, you know, I want to do this. And I was like, do what? He's like, I want to do this. I was like, okay, do you have an outfit? He's like, no, I'm good. I'll do it like this. I'm like, I'm getting nervous, you know? Like, he's like, no, I'm a black belt, blah, blah. He's probably like 20 or something. I was like, this dude's going to whoop my ass. And then he was like horrible. He was like a karate black belt, you know, like as soon as it went to the ground.
But you're always on the edge now.
But yeah, like the first, I was like, this is like, I just opened my academy. I'm going to get my ass whooped.
Because you, in some way, is like, you have a little taste of what we kind of talk about now that I cannot even grasp a life that Rickson live, Carson live now. Oh, you are the responsible to carry here, so anybody can come and challenge you, anybody can come at any time, and you don't have alternative.
Like, and it's not sport.
No, it's not sport.
Anything.
It's not sport. No?
Yeah,
if it's a sport, well, you go to the match, you go to prove whatever, but it's, or you want to prove that jiu-jitsu is better, so it's luta livre.
I always say I have some of the best jiu-jitsu as long as it's under the right rules. Beyond that,
I cannot really, you know, we got in a couple altercations, especially the time of the luta livre. We had in fights, you know, but it's completely different when the thing happens, just happens spontaneous, and when you know that at any moment, doesn't matter if last night you didn't sleep well, doesn't matter if you're sick, doesn't matter whatever it is, somebody can just come and, hey, I'm here preparing myself for 2 months and I'm here to challenge you.
Yeah.
It's like, it comes from the blue, yeah? Like from nowhere, like happened with Rickson. The OG Andrew came to the California school and things like that.
We talked about that.
Yeah, it was like, it's crazy. You like eating breakfast with your family on Saturday, oh man, have somebody here to fight you. It's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if it was anybody else, I'd tell this dude to get out of there. And, you know, it's like, I'm not going to go leave my family here and go there to fight. It's like some crazy stuff. But it's a life there. We see it, and I always seen Rickson doing, and I know Carson did and Marcelo did before or whatever. That is a difficult, very different than being a sport or loving jiu-jitsu or
yeah.
It's a completely different than sport.
So as you grew in the ranks, did you start training with Rickson more often? And like, what was it like once you kind of started getting tougher and
yeah, I trained with him often because we had the room now after you got the sun belt. The room was now you got to get at least to blue to purple or be a really good blue to be able to start mixing up with the high ranks at the time. Now, black belt will not even see a white belt.
Really?
Yeah, you're in a separate room. That's what I told the guys. I think one of the biggest privilege there, the guys here had it, was the exposure immediately to higher ranks. You know? A brown belt and black belt would not even want to see a blue belt.
Yeah.
In the old time, because it was not a hard train.
Right.
You go from a black to a brown to black to brown. Black is like the whole, but allowed the development and them everyone to grow much faster, because you have this guy being correct now, like you sharing there. It's like, you're getting a blue belt or whatever, he has directly exposure to a black belt who is not only correcting, but it's training and doing stuff, and his mind is like, oh, wow. Yeah? Where if he's only going against a white belt, there's a lot of intensity, but there's a limitation there into how the game developed. Yeah? So you stay very more basic into the ideas and the concepts of it.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing for me is getting my students to talk more. I think that, you know, like when I was the lower ranks and I was just programmed this way, it's like you just collide and you get tough. But I think once you like started to like, both people started to speak about details, how's the pressure here, how's this feel, right? Like, and you actually create the situation, you could figure things out faster instead of just having to like muscle your way through the stuff. And then it was like, cool, because if you can speak it, you can do it. But if you can't even speak a lot of times what you're trying to work, how are you going to fully process it?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's been cool to have my students like talk about their technique and explain what they're having struggles with, and actually, you know, this grip, this position, this frame, instead of just like, oh, I'm just clubbing the head. Well, how are you clubbing the head? Where is your shoulder going? You know, like all those things kind of matter because every inch can make all the difference in the pressure.
Yeah, it's totally true. It's totally true.
To like get your first mats, find the mats, paying for them back in the day, like finding
It
the
was hard.
location.
Like we the reality, the mats there, we got it. I didn't had a lot to finance because what happened is there, the guy who was at the time with me, Luciano, his dad was the work for the Monsanto. He sponsored, and as the school developed, we start paying back towards the mats now. And at the time, it was very limited what you could even have access to buy it. And I remember the mats that I had, that is still under here, no? That is,
here?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So we got from the Olympic Games in Atlanta because Swain mats at the time, we want to buy it. And they said, listen, we have this mats being used for judo now for the 2 days or 3 days that had the judo. And we can ship them directly from Atlanta. We'll give you 20% off. And that's how we got the mats.
Really?
Yeah. Because at the time, Swain was dominant. It was Century was the major thing. And they brought, he was one of the best judo guys that the United States ever had. And they brought us a sponsorship and they put it, so it was the best. We got an incredible deal at the time now because there was no companies who make mats or anything. Or it was a wrestling mat but the really mats like we have there, today have so many companies, but at the time, Swain was the only one. So.
Yeah. And how big was the facility and how much was your rent? Do you remember when you first?
I don't remember exactly the rent. I think probably around, was not as expensive because we were all the way on the back. We had no visibility to the front. Now we're all the way behind in the corner end of the strip mall, and we are behind the recruiting office. But I think it was in the thousands, like probably like 1,500, something like that at the time, you know.
How much square feet do you think?
I think like around the 2,000 and something because had a pillar in the middle that killed a little bit of the space, but was a nice area. Was definitely a pretty.
Are any of the guys still with you? Like Todd Fox, was he there in that original location?
Oh, all of them. Like Mike Rogers.
Really?
Yeah, Mike Rogers, Todd Fox, Guidry was there on the first location. Hal. Yeah, was in the first location.
That's
Ed from Omaha was in the first location. Dana. So have a lot of the guys who start like David Clare, who's older.
Belts, which is cool.
Steve Menke was in the first location. Jonathan Menke. Because I stay on that location all the way to the 2001, I think. 2000 to 2001 going. And then I moved South County. And then I moved to South County to Fenton. And then I moved here.
Wow.
So
my first location was in a mall that was kind of becoming abandoned in Effingham, and it was $300 a month, and it was 1,000 square feet. And I remember we found some mats off a guy, and I drove all night, you know, and loaded up these. They were kind of like, what mats?
Yeah, Zebra came later.
That's what it was.
Zebra, then it's like all of them came after with as the market started getting
I started
more
in
and more.
2011, 29 years old. That's when I started jiu-jitsu. So it's been a crazy journey, but no, it's been cool to experience like that backstory. I'd like to like dive into it more as time goes on, you know, just to kind of figure out more things. What was like one of your favorite things to do in jiu-jitsu when you're competing? Like, you know, for me, of course, I love spider guard. I love Delahiva, reverse Delahiva. I loved a lot of guard until I, of course, hurt my back. And then, like, the last 3 years has just been majority top playing just because I feel so much better on top than on my back. But, like, for you, what do you feel like your game was?
Well, I think the naturally was easier for me to adapt being on the top. Even, like, was ironic because of I at the time in Brazil, I was considered kind of a big guy. Yeah? Not anymore. Like people are much, much bigger now. I'm around like 200 pounds, and like the guys are now much taller.
What weight class did you typically compete at?
Below, probably like in a 180 something, 180.
Okay.
184, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly the divisions at the time, what it was, but I was medium heavy, and it was horrible because you're forced to arrive early in the morning. Now the competitions are so disorganized. Then we would do a walk, and I was always on the end of the day to fight.
What do you mean by a walk?
It's like a presentation. All the teams walk now. It was a kind of a ceremony. We used to do it. And I always get screwed because since I was medium heavy and go by weight, start the lower and go up, I was always all day, no air conditioner in Rio, humidity in like 98, whatever. We sit in this stadium concrete and wait all day to go compete 4:30 in the afternoon.
Are you still trying to make a certain weight so you can't eat all day?
No, the weight previously the weight was the day before.
Okay.
So it was not the biggest issue, but was how burnout was to be. You get there for the opening or walk ceremony is around 8:30 in the morning, and you're fighting at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no planning, no food, and like none of the structure and knowledge that we have today. Was like, man, do you have a banana? Like it's like completely oblivious of cutting weight, and knowledge was zero. Now was not. Now I think people really start understanding more about all of that after Jiu-Jitsu came to the United States, with the wrestlers and learning to, how do you proper do this? How do you, before it used to be like, I just don't eat. Like, oh, wow. Like I had competitions that I lost because of that. Like I was like, I'm going to cut it the weight or whatever. It was completely stupid. Yeah. I don't eat until tomorrow and then I'll make weight. Yeah, but you're fighting. It's like, what now? It's like you're trying to throw stuff in. Your body have no chance of processing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your day and a half without eating anything, and now you're trying to throw a banana in this, and you're going to compete in 5 minutes. Like, there's no way. There's no way. You're gonna cramp up. You're gonna start feeling it's like. Today we have so much more access of knowledge and amino acids or this or that to make your body recover faster. But at the time was completely out of that. And then you go to the stadiums to compete and they have what? It's like going to a Blues game. You have to have burgers and hot dogs, like nothing, everything the opposite of a healthy was there.
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna eat that, then you're gonna puke in the mats. It was something. But it was like we used to go to these venues. It used to be like people won't believe it. I never trained with air conditioning in my life until I came to the United States.
Yeah.
Never. Air condition is like used to be like. You are like what we talk in a Hills and Gracie used to be in the mall, in the little room, air conditioner, special people go, and you could have gis of different colors. I remember because my friend was training there at the time, but every school is a fan on the wall, open the windows. You can't handle, man. There was nothing. Like I never even heard of like anything when I got here. It's like, you have air conditioned training all the time. It's like
I know. I'm pretty spoiled now, but
we all are. I did today. I look as like, wow. It's like.
If we didn't have heat today, I would probably not be here still.
Yeah, no heat. I think for us I think that's even worse. I cannot adapt with heat. I think you maybe adjust a little bit in the beginning, but cold is such a worse.
I remember
because
when
even
I would
for
go
injuries
train
now.
with Heath in the morning. You would train until your feet started to turn white, and then that's when the
I
practice
remember,
was
going
over.
to the old place.
Yeah.
Where had no heat, nothing.
Yeah.
and they used to have the back room
Yep.
where they have like 8 dudes there. I was like, man, I remember like going, even when I took Antonio there, Antonio spent like 4 days there with Andrew, and it was like, he's like, what the hell is this place?
Yeah, I'll never forget. I was like, well, my toes are done for the day, so I'm out, guys. Clearly used your judo in competition typically to set up the takedown.
Yeah.
And then you got to the ground, but like, what do you feel like was your highest percent submission? Like what?
Chokes, always been
side
chokes.
Control, typically.
Chokes.
Mount.
Chokes from anywhere. I always had it, like, since I was a kid, I always had it, fascination with chokes. I always had it. Maybe having shorter legs and a lot of times people wouldn't give me not even opportunity to work bottom, because like I said, I was considered a bigger guy. Yeah, maybe in my gym, because I seen by Gracie had a Roleta, I had a couple guys who were taller and things like that, but most of the guys there, nobody was really tall that I remember. So every time I started, boom, they're already pulling guard. And I didn't have a chance to work as much because they didn't want to go at the side of my close guard. I naturally had it more to perfect the easier for me on the top, passing, getting to the side, and and submitting with different forms of choke or paper cut chokes and things like especially the chokes who being more consistent. The game evolves so much, have so many variations now, but most of the traditional, especially chokes.
Back to the basics.
Yeah.
Gracies,
especially like I think paper cut choke and the normal cross collar choke is to be always the major.
If you had to pick one, what do you feel like would be your favorite out of all times?
I think would be cross collar from anywhere.
From anywhere?
Yeah.
I remember when I finally figured out the cross collar. Like it's funny to watch, especially as a ref. When you're a ref, it's like the worst thing in the world, especially like if you have to ref kids. But you watch technique and you watch such bad technique take place a lot of times. Everyone goes for like that desperate plea and that cross collar, and you're like, it's not there. And then every once in a while you see people tap, and you're like, I cannot believe that guy tapped when his hands were like literally down under the neck.
Yes.
But they panic and they throw the cross collar up. But it's funny. It's funny to see all the different things in the sport. If you draft and you've been around
the sport is just so evolved so much, and if you want to stay relevant, you gotta be always willing to keep learning.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's one of the beauties is there. Sure, fundamentals are important and old school stuff is great, but you gotta be open mind to certain things there.
Even if you're not going to use it, you need to understand it.
Because somebody else will use it.
Yeah. If you don't know how to stop it.
We talk about even with Mason, like a lot of the stuff that I gotta exchange with him, I will never do it.
Yeah.
But I got to understand, hey, man, we got to look to this. We got to look to this variation to chase the back. We got to look to this variation to crab ride. We got to look, because...
If you don't.
Yes,
you're
because
done.
if you don't, you're relevant to the new what's coming. Yeah? If you want to give him the possibility, but I have a guy who is masters and older, I say, hey, man, the reality is that you're not going to deal with a lot of stand-up passing.
Yeah.
You're going to see one here and there, but you're going to see a lot of deep half. You're going to see a lot. You got to train for that.
I competed the most at blue and purple too, and then I blew my back out at brown, and then I really slowed down. But like when I would do masters, I would do all the new school stuff. And then when I did adult, I actually went to old school. And I felt like I had success.
But I think that was very smart.
Yeah, because I would just go into the closed guard.
You take
and then
them out of their element.
And then I'd never let them have delegate and all that stuff. So I feel like that gave me a lot of success playing that variation for.
I agree. It's a very good way of putting the reverse now, is bringing the guy out of their element because they're used to consistently deal with guys fighting that way.
I think
so
too many people want to beat people at their A game, and it's like,
yes,
I mean, that's great, it's awesome, and it's, but, you know, like it's too, sometimes if you want to go 5 rounds.
No, it's not smart. It's not smart. It's not that. Let's put that way. That's not smart. We know that jiu-jitsu is supposed, you're supposed to take people out of their strengths. Nah, that's it's a smart game. It's a strategy game.
Yeah.
So if I fight your strengths, it's more an ego kind of like, oh, I'm trying to prove that I'm better than you, what you do well. Well, that can be pretty risky.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, I think this has been awesome. If there's some concepts you want to go into, we can dive into some concepts of technique or anything that you're going over,
I love
whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Being already in a half.
So you want to be here?
Yeah.
Right?
Kind of.
So for me, it's always controlling this hip. Make sense? So it's like up here. And then I want to be here. And then I'm controlling the shoulders, controlling the chin. Like the more that I actually push the person's chin down or control the shoulders and they can't sit up, the faster their guard's getting exhausted. So for me, it's like being here. And then that's giving me the knee cut if I want.
To run the hips?
But I get to be here, right? Like where I'm putting my body on you and then being here. Mm-hmm. And then I'm letting you kind of push back where you want to push back. I don't want to pass anywhere. And then I just keep carrying the weight, shifting the shoulders, coming in more and more. Then you lift again. Even if you come to this side here, then it's back again to the side. It's constantly side to side, sitting in here like this, pinching my knees, hand fighting.
Controlling.
And that's given me a ton of success. And then you come in here, and then it opens the knee, right? Or it's Jonathan Thomas has been all this.
Yeah, he was here now working to isolate the feet and force the guy to reach.
Yeah.
To give the arm, to give the pass. And
so he's really helped me with like the knee shield concepts lately. So, but constantly just in here. This is like where I like to be. Just sitting here riding my opponent, not letting them have anything.
So immediately, that's what I was thinking there. Immediately when the guy is already in deep half, immediately is not trying to come here at all.
Right.
It's focusing.
Yes.
Realigning the flat in the hip.
Yeah. I don't like to club the head, especially because most people are bigger than me. So like if I connect to you, you can kind of use my weight against me. But if I stay backwards and not let you sit up into me, it kind of has me have more control. I also like to hook this where like people can't get this leg back. So like this leg can't just freely
But how do you
out.
do it dealing with the
so
reverse?
A lot of times it's just like this, right? And then it's here. So
going clear and the same thing if you were
or the nice thing is like it can come back in here, right? And then I could start to square this up, just keep back stepping, stapling down here, circling to the inside here. So the reverse deli hiva doesn't bother me a whole lot, especially if I can stay back like here. So I like to back up a lot no matter you get this tight in here, right? Like so, and then it's
because even for me to chase is too farther out.
Yeah, I just don't like to commit forward unless I'm ready to pass. Here, and then I'm gonna step in here.
Too flat already.
Right, and then I'm never just letting the knees hit the mat. Because if my knees go to the mat, I feel like you have control of me. But if I feel like if I'm here, I can like make you carry my weight, and I can have like these false underhooks and flatten you out. And even if you push me back or lift me, I just have to like, sometimes when people lift me, I just come up and then I sit back immediately. Like I let them feel like they can lift me. And then when their knee comes to that like weakening point, then I put the pressure back down to keep cooking the legs and then just carrying it this way. And then you have to like, for me, it's like, of course, getting the knees pinned makes so much difference. So I'm just constantly trying to go side to side and pin your knees, pin your hips. And then just make you have to constantly regard off that. And then once that gets weak, then I start to move forward by inches.
So you prefer like for me, a lot of times when I'm here in half now, I like to work a lot here in pinning.
Yeah, the pinning thing's great. So I actually have one of my officers I had start doing this, and it's annoying as can be.
It's annoying because you don't think too much about it. Here, after you pin, it takes a while for you to circle and get out of back.
It's so hard to get it back. Like he pins my arms now, and I'm like, this is annoying. He's gotten so good on top now, and when he pins this arm, and you can't break the grip this way.
Yeah, because then you can use this to flatten here and start working here with the legs now, or running or sitting.
Yeah, it's brutal.
For me to pin, it's like not as easy because I got little baby hands. So like if I put my, you can like circle out of them, you know, but when somebody has good grips, it's like you're done. You're killed. So
yeah, I love the hand pinning stuff. What else have you been working on, do you feel like, in your technique lately?
No, I've been like trying I try to perfect more my toe holds now.
Yeah.
I use a little bit.
I think that's one area I don't work enough on is the bicep crushes, the calf crushes, and the toe hold.
Yeah, I started using, and I get a really great result with the Craig Jones approach of punching the arm.
Yeah.
That really increased the success rate like hugely, like the amount of how quicker the pressure will come to the foot. Now.
Where do you feel like you like to do your setup? Half guard? Is that where you typically go for
yeah,
the toe hold?
even like a coming to pass, if I feel that the guy is maybe on a De La Riva kind of a position or whatever, now, push with the knee and boom, and getting onto it now.
Yeah.
And committing to it, maybe even rolling over the top and really get it there. And as soon as I'm not exposing myself to be an exchange.
Yeah.
Going over, I don't feel that I'm in any danger. Out of that, I don't feel that any other position I'm really concerned.
Yeah.
And I want to get to my guard better because I want to pull guard.
Yeah.
One time.
Yeah. What?